One major threat is not having a proper security system. One can say that there are a number of crimes in the city of New York, but if you don't have a proper police force, you will never deal with them.
Some of us are having a harder time getting to work in the morning. The primary purpose for founding the United Nations was to stop wars, to regulate the sale of armaments, and to establish international security, an international security system. It was to develop and propagate international norms and law, without which life will return to the unbearable. Yes, terror cells are hidden everywhere, and the conventional war response kills mostly civilians too. Why United Nations? As Secretary General Mr. Urgarat said, perhaps the UN was not meant to bring us to heaven as much as to save us from hell. Do we need to relearn this over and over again? The UN was to be an answer to inhumanity, to unthinkable tragic losses and desperate questions. The words "never again" rose from our lips, but without forming and agreeing on a system of international security, we have man-made horrors and atrocities again and again and again. Each and every one supported by larger competing power, ideology, and industrial profiteers. The nations most of us are citizens of, all powers, knowingly or unknowingly, directly or indirectly, supported the worst of human nature. Sure, the UN needs genuine reform. What institution doesn't? Let's help. It's only as good as we each join in and make it happen. Unite to end totalitarianism of any kind, be it Islamic or in the name of any other ideology. Unite to educate and interrupt hatred of others. And these were relatively small detonations, but nuclear and other dangerous materials have been let loose. They are out there. Albert Einstein forewarned us. Unleashed atomic power has changed everything save our modes of thinking. Thus, we drift into unparalleled catastrophe. Like him, it's vital we all out support its containment and treaties which verify its transparency and peaceful use. Biological and nuclear releases will be much, much worse than anything we have ever witnessed. Another reason to get completely unified around prevention now. We need a functioning United Nations because epidemic diseases are ravaging our families and communities around the globe. We need to help each other with pollution, keeping our common air breathable, our waters drinkable, and aquatic life abundant, our land productive and healthy, our environment livable. These are all lesser mentioned but contributing concerns needing our global support.
The kind of thinking, the kind of cogitation about world problems that goes around here, there is a great deal of serious thinking. Not all of it may be something which you can agree with, but that's not the point. The fact is people are engaged in issues of great pith and moment, as substance, as you might say. And in that sense, I think it is important to feel engaged, to be discussing things.
In the Iraq crisis, there was disagreement. It was not possible to agree on an intervention by the United States.
Why the UN is not giving any support for all these adventures oriented, oil oriented or whatever.
It would be much better if there was a consensus, but you cannot force a consensus, and it's healthy. But also there is an organ where these discussions take place, and if there is disagreement, there is a discussion of this disagreement.
Excellences, Monsieur Dominique Galuzzo, Monsieur le Secrétaire Général, Mesdames et Messieurs les ministres, Messieurs les ambassadeurs, davantage de sécurité, davantage de démocratie. Mais il existe une autre logique que celle de la force, un autre chemin, d'autres solutions. Nous comprenons le sentiment profond d'insécurité dans lequel vit la population américaine depuis la tragédie du 11 septembre 2001. Le monde entier a partagé la douleur de New York et de l'Amérique, frappée au cœur. Je le dis au nom de l'amitié que nous portons au peuple américain, au nom de nos valeurs communes, la liberté, la justice, la tolérance. Mais rien n'indique aujourd'hui qu'il y ait un lien entre le régime irakien et Al-Qaïda. Et le monde sera-t-il plus en sécurité après une intervention militaire en Irak? Je veux vous dire la conviction de mon pays. Non.
The United Nations, with all the criticisms that have been done, has a real power that counts in the world, and with counting with this power, you can achieve results that without that you cannot. You simply cannot. Power is also the ability to achieve results. The influence, the prestige, the legitimacy that the United Nations can bring adds enormously to your capacity to achieve those goals. You need to assemble all the means that will allow you to achieve the results you want.
If you look at what happened, let's say over the past few years, you will realize that whenever there was cooperation between nations, between countries, some things were done, and they were done for the good cause. Whenever there was no cooperation, nothing moved, and if it moved for a bad cause, I would say.
What they're doing in a sort of scientific type of way is that they are figuring out what are the major threats in the world today, and how they interact. How terrorism, say, it takes roots from intolerance, and how intolerance takes root from education, and education from poverty, and governance from that kind of thing. We need a structure that is able to deal with those threats. That is the most important part.
There's a lot of discussion in New York sometimes as to whether it's poverty or the fight against terrorism that has to have the priority. A poor woman in an African village who goes hungry to bed and who cannot feed her children, she might not worry so much about international terrorists, but in the final analysis it can hit her too.
The young people, might associate poverty with the tradition and might hate their way of life. So when you are frustrated, you don't know. You start hating what you have. You start saying, well, this is responsible for our poverty, everything, So I think if we don't fight out the poverty and improve the livelihood of the people, they would simply reject whatever they have, and they will look outside, and that worries me, and that you see among the young people.